Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, rolling out hour number 2, 2020. Our guest in studio, of course, is Chris Wynn. Across from J.D. Sharp, I am Mr. Brian Shapiro. Back at it, and a lot to get to. Coming up, by the way, we will be talking about the death of David Stern, former NBA commissioner. What did he leave the NBA? Where did he put the NBA? A lot of strong opinions about David Stern that I'd like to get to. Some good, some not so good. But obviously very sad to hear of his passing. UNLV basketball, we'll get to that hour number 3 as well. Very interesting story involving Mr. Gronkowski. We'll talk about that and what he did on national TV that got Steve Harvey very pissed off. But, we've been talking about this horrific car crash that took place in Las Vegas. Actually, it was last week. And it should hit home to all of us because it kind of says, life is so short, especially around the holidays. And you could be sitting at a red light and some idiot could decide to, drive recklessly and execute your family. That's exactly what took place. Now, yes, we don't know if this was a medical episode, so we're going to keep that open to a possibility. But here's what we do know. Police are saying, and by the way, this happened a week ago, that a man, 38-year-old, Takuma Wesley, they just released his name, was driving on Desert Inn Road, hit the barrier, the median there, and struck a car with a family of 5. That car went into the intersection of Desert Inn and Durango, killing 3 people in that car, including a 4-year-old girl, as both those cars burst into flames. A daughter, a mother, and a grandmother dead. 2 kids that were in that car were taken out and dragged out by Good Samaritans, who I would like to call heroes. I would love to know who these people are. They took a 17-year-old out of the car and a 10-year-old. Last I checked, that 10-year-old is still in a coma. Burns all over her body. The 17-year-old burns all over his body. And what we've heard, and we haven't confirmed this through any doctors or the hospital, but what some family friends have said is that the 17-year-old may be paralyzed the rest of his life. Several generations wiped out because of one man's actions. Now, like I said, we don't know if this was a medical episode. The only thing where you can say is, well, we have to have compassion for this man who caused the crash too. The only way you could say that is if he had a seizure or a heart attack, but everything leads me to believe that that's not the case. As I look at this man and I look at just what he looked like, and again, it's not 100%. This is a guy that was in good shape. He's young. We're not talking about an 85 or 90-year-old. And the first thing that enters your mind when somebody like that causes a crash is, was it a medical episode? Was it a heart attack? Did he die at the wheel, or she? I'm not thinking that. So most likely, this was one of those situations where the guy could have been drunk, he could have been on drugs, or he's just driving like a complete moron, and he wipes these people out. So I understand why people are upset. I understand why people are angry. But I want to read to you what this man, and again, they released his name, 38-year-old Takuma Wesley. So on his social media page, which I checked out when they released his name, a lot of pictures of him, a lot of posts. You could make the argument that there are some pictures where he's showing gang signs in some of these pictures. I'm not saying he was a gang member, but there are some weird pictures of him on his page. But here's what I want to say. His sister goes on social media, on Facebook, on his page, and here's what she says. Her name is Moya Dunlap. Apparently, this is his sister, I believe. She says, on this day, December 27th, 2019, instead of wishing my little brother, Takuma Wesley, happy birthday, I am confronted with his passing. Let me start out by saying this. His sister did not commit any crimes. His family did not do anything wrong. They should not be chastised. They are hurting because they lost somebody in their family. Trust me, I totally understand that. But here's where I think she made a mistake. And I do believe it was a mistake. I don't believe it was malicious. If you are going to say something publicly, this isn't a private message, this is public on his Facebook page, in my personal opinion, she should have also said something about the people who lost their lives other than her brother. Keep in mind, her brother is the one that caused this crash, whether it was alcohol or reckless driving. And by the way, police are saying there was excessive speed. Regardless, she should have said her heart also bleeds for that family who lost 3 loved ones and 2 kids in serious condition. She didn't say any of that. So that's where I have a little bit of a problem. Now, am I going to go after her? Am I going to go on social media and go after? Absolutely not. She's hurting. She's in pain. Am I going to go after her brother when we don't have all the information of what caused the crash? No. Yeah. But I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to say this right now. If there was alcohol involved or drugs involved, or if they're saying he didn't have a medical episode, he was just driving like an idiot, you're damn right I'm going to go after him, and I'm going to blast him more than you can believe. But with that said, there are some people taking shape on social media that are saying some pretty harsh things about this guy. I want to start by reading what somebody wrote on Facebook. Apparently, this is a friend to the family who lost 3 loved ones. She said her name is Maya Vamos. She says, and I'm going to try to, because there are some swears in some of these messages, so I'm going to try to read it slowly so I don't do something that the FCC doesn't like. She says, my brother's whole world has come crashing down because of him. What she means by him is the guy who caused the crash. My brother lost his mom, sister, and niece, while his brother and another niece sit in the hospital alive only because of a caring individual that pulled them from the fiery wreck your brother caused. You could call me B-word. I think you could say that on the air, but I won't say it anyway. But your brother does not effing deserve to rest in peace. May he eternally pay for what he did. Now, listen, I understand that I can't imagine how hard this is for what this woman is going through, and she reacted, and she's angry to that passage. Now, some of these messages get worse than that. I don't really have too much of a problem with what she just said there, to be honest with you. We have some people, a guy named Ken on social media says the guy is a piece of you-know-what, F him. I'm sorry, but F that. He took 3 innocent lives in the rain, driving like a Looney Tune. What about sympathy for the family that is devastated? I agree with that statement. I feel for you, but not for him. He paid the ultimate price for driving like an effing loser and killing 3 innocent people, including a kid. Here's someone else named Anastasia, who, and these are, for the most part, these are people that live in Las Vegas. Some of these people did not know this family, but they take it personal, just as we all should. Someone else said, he effing killed 3 generations, including a 4-year-old child. He deserved to die. He caused a whole family heartache of planning 3 funerals at once. Their bodies were effing burnt so bad the coroner said they were unrecognizable. They had to match fingerprints and medical records. He does not deserve to rest in peace. Rot in hell. I'll read a few more. I mean, I could go on. There are hundreds of messages.
I'd like to hear
this.
12 more.
Well, I'm not gonna read 12 more. I mean, I guess I'll read.
But you're making the point, though, Brian. And the point is this, right? The debate over social media and reaction. Now, there's a big difference, right, between family members who have been directly affected in this tragedy and then those of us that are weighing in that don't know any of the family members and that are just viewing this from our own perspective and will weigh in on social media, right?
Yeah.
There's a difference in that. But like you, I take a look at it and say, hey, we got to take a step back. We got to wait until all the facts come out, until we know exactly what the circumstances are surrounding this. And you kind of pointed it out, Brian. But at the same time, then there's people out there that don't, that they are not taking into consideration the facts. They are just going off their initial reaction and their visceral reaction because of the horrific tragedy that's taken place, because that 3 generations have lost lives in this, in one family.
Well, let me ask,
people are letting that overtake
I'll tell you this.
their sense of sanity when it comes to the reaction of this.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that if you do look at his social media, and I looked at it too, he's got pictures with his shirt off. He's got pictures with cars, pictures with money, talking about how he's self-made. He's got, he's got this very, very sociopathic almost persona that you kind of look at when you look at his page. And am I shocked that this guy took a car going 110 or 90 to 110 miles an hour? He actually hit the median, and he was heading uphill. He wasn't heading down. He was heading uphill. He was driving fast enough that he was heading uphill. He hit the center median and then slammed right into the car in front of him. And the car that these people were in, it was 2017 Jeep Journey. I mean, it wasn't a small sedan. I mean,
I can't imagine.
And he was in a Mazda 6. So to me, I mean, I drive a 2012 Cadillac Escalade, and it's a powerful car,
right,
or a powerful vehicle. I think that even if I was hit by a car going that fast, the same thing would have happened to me. So it's really troubling because again, they were not in an inexpensive, not well built vehicle. They were in a very, very nice car, then I'm surprised that much damage was incurred because of that.
I mean, I can't imagine, the impact. I can't even imagine how tough that must have been to see and watch for people that were there. But here's the question I pose to the listeners right now, and we'll take some phone calls at 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of this conversation, 257-5396. So here's the question that I pose to people. Do you think it is fair to go on social media or even to say on this show or anywhere to your friends at a bar, whatever, do you think it's fair to say that you hope that this guy rots in hell? The guy who caused this crash, not necessarily knowing if there was a health issue. I guess it's possible for a 38-year-old to have a heart attack, especially someone
or a seizure that incapacitates him, and so he ended up not having control of his vehicle.
I think that would be much more likely if there wasn't rain on the ground, if the ground wasn't wet and slick like it was.
Well, we don't. That's one of those things we don't know. Certainly, if it's rainy and the ground is wet, that certainly doesn't help the situation any. But again, the question I pose to people is: here's a man that police are claiming was driving recklessly, and the toxicology report is not out yet, that took the lives of 3 innocent people, basically wiped out an entire family. Let's just call it what it is. You have a 17-year-old and a 10-year-old in the hospital. The 10-year-old, my understanding, is still in a coma. 17-year-old is, from what some people have said, could be paralyzed the rest of his life. Do you think it is fair to go after a guy and to say that you hope he rots in hell? And there are some other
drop some very bad names on him.
He's
as well,
an African American,
and can't say on the air.
That should never happen under any circumstance because his race has absolutely nothing to do with this. But there are people calling him the N-word. I wouldn't support that for the worst human being possible because his race should have nothing to do with that. So certainly, I do not agree with that. But and I also will pose this question to people calling in because this is important, and I want to hear from you about this. So Vegas has been known in certain polls for having some of the worst drivers in the country. Now, I don't know if I agree with that, but I would like to hear some of your stories, some of your nightmare stories of people on the road. I want to hear from you in regards to that as well. Do you think, so 2 questions really, do you think that it is fair for people to tell this guy to rot in hell? That is my first question, maybe without knowing all the facts in the case. Maybe you think it's okay. I want to hear from you.
It's not maybe, though, Brian. There's no debate. Well, the facts aren't out yet.
I understand that, but I want to hear from people out there, and I want to know
it's an important point to make.
I understand that. So that's my first question. And then my second question is, have you had any experiences where you've been in a car crash on the road or you've seen another very, very serious car accident in Las Vegas? I want to hear from you guys out there, your stories out there. And, of course, we're talking about this horrific crash that took place a week ago right down the street from this radio station. So here's that number to call again if you want to be a part of this conversation, 702-257-5396. Once again, that number to call is 702-257-5396. We certainly want to hear from you, your thoughts on this crash, this guy who caused this crash, social media, people making assumptions. What are your thoughts on that? 257-5396. Why don't we start off with Kevin? Kevin, thank you for calling into the Vegas Take. What do you make of all this?
Hey, what's up, Kevin?
Hey, guys, I appreciate you guys kind of holding back until you guys get whatever the report is, whether it's a heart attack, reckless driving. I think that, I guess my opinion is really that I understand that everybody's upset, the family's upset. Let's not lose focus of, that the families were lost and losing our crew. A lot of these people that are driving out here in Vegas, rain days, I'm a truck driver out here. And these guys, most of these people are in no moral position to judge someone because you guys drive just as insane as this guy that lost the car. They lost control of the car. We all need to reflect that, you're not invincible and that you can end up just like this guy. Today it's him, tomorrow it could be you. But that being aside, I understand everybody's emotional and hurt.
Yeah.
Telling someone that they rot in hell, you need to be careful with that.
I agree, Kevin, but tell me if you disagree with this or not, though. And again, we don't know. If it turns out that this guy did not have a medical episode, I have no problem with anybody saying he can rot in hell.
Exactly.
If it turns out that he was drunk or on drugs or he was just driving like an idiot and there was no medical episode, I have zero sympathy for this guy. Are you okay with that, Kevin?
I don't have any sympathy for him, but you have to understand he's gone. Whatever his judgment is, it's not our place to even comment on. Just be careful of what you wish for, because like I said, passing judgment, you're in no moral position to do that. We all have driven stupidly or arrest
I've
them.
never,
Yeah,
I've
but I
never.
mean, in that case, Kevin, I've been in Vegas for 2.5 years. I've probably never taken my car over 75, maybe 80 miles an hour, maybe once or twice on the interstate.
Yeah.
But I mean, you say that it could happen to anybody. Not if we find out this guy was going 100 miles an hour, 110 miles an hour, I totally disagree with that.
I think Kevin makes look. Kevin, I think you make a
Okay.
valid point, though. I think you're making a valid point, and the point is this: is that look, it's not as if this driver, and look, the driver's dead and gone now, so we'll never know what his frame of mind is. It's not people's intent, right? When you're on the roads, even if you are impaired or if whatever, it's never their intent. He wasn't looking to go out and murder people, right? You're not out there looking to kill people. You're not out there looking to get into an accident, right, on the roads.
Yeah.
I think that's the point he's trying to make.
Yeah, and Kevin, listen,
and I think that's a very valid point.
Kevin,
he's trying to say.
I appreciate the phone call. I think I understand what you were saying. But where I'm going to pull back on his comment, and by the way, the number to call 257-5396. Here's where I'm going to pull back. Listen, murderers, rapists. There are horrific people in the world, and I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, I hope you rot in hell, especially the family that lost loved ones.
But Brian, I don't necessarily think he is in the same boat, this person, if it is found out that he was impaired. You think that's the same frame of mind as a murderer or a rapist?
Let me respond to that.
Someone who basically commits vehicular homicide,
Let me respond to that. Let me tell you something, my friend. Let me tell you something. If you decide to get drunk, and again, we don't know that about him, but if it turns out that he was drunk or on drugs, the answer is yes.
They're in the same boat.
To me, when you get into a car impaired, that's a decision that you decide to make. Now, you might call it involuntary, right? It's not premeditated murder.
Well, it's not. We might call it. That's what the law is.
But
Brian.
I'm giving you my opinion.
There's a major difference.
But I understand
between vehicular homicide.
I understand that,
and a serial rapist.
I understand that, but I'm giving you my opinion. Okay, to me, if you get into a car drunk, I believe the punishment should be much harsher. If you hurt somebody, or let alone, God forbid, kill somebody, and you're drunk and you're impaired and you get into a car, I have no problem saying about a person, I hope they rot in hell if they execute a family and take out a family. We don't know if this guy did that. The number to call is 702-257-5396. Also want to get your stories on the roadways. I mean, I'm sure some people have some hellish stories they want to talk about. And what are your thoughts on this guy? Do you think it's fair for people to say he should rot in hell without maybe knowing all the information? Again, that number 257-5396. Let's go to Jake. Jake, you are next up on the Vegas Take. Thanks for calling in. What do you make of all this?
Well, if he was impaired in any way, of course, I would say he should rot in hell. I have no problem with that. As an example, the police had to kill somebody this morning on Craig Road because he carjacked somebody. And when I heard that he was shot and killed, my response was good.
Yeah.
We don't need those kind of people here. And, this guy, if he did not have some sort of a medical incident, then best case scenario, he was at the very best, he was negligent. And that's I think another problem, though, is social media is too powerful because a lot of people have a lot to say when they're not standing face to face. And it's like a snowball effect, whether he did or did not, was he impaired, yes or no? The point is that's the problem with our society today is there's so much social media. Like I was telling my wife, I don't know that the world is so much more violent than it used to be. It's just there's so much more.
It's just more in your face. Everything that happens is more in your face. And I got to agree with you there. Like the guy you talked about, the carjacker who was shot. I mean, he assumed the risk. This guy assumed if he's driving 110 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour in a Mazda 6 and endangering other lives when it's wet outside, he's assuming
Let me pull back on something.
He's assuming the risk at that point.
Okay, but hold on, Jake and JD. Let me pull back on something here real quick. If you are attempting to shoplift or steal from somebody, in this case a car. Now, listen, I don't have all the specifics on this. If this guy has a weapon and he doesn't comply with police officers, then I agree with you. I have no problem with them taking him out. However, if you are just, and by the way, I don't think police just shot the guy, and he was, I'm sure he probably was armed.
Exactly,
But if somebody is just carjacking you and doesn't have a weapon, or maybe even does have a weapon, and carjacks you, but then when police tell him to put his hands up and he drops a weapon, no, I don't think he should be executed.
Well, I don't know. I'm not saying he should have been executed. What I'm saying is, if I'm from L.A. and we would see these car chases, they're so common. They air them on the news. And you'll see somebody who will cause 5 or 6 different accidents, and then when it's all over, all he has to do is stand up, He lays on the ground, puts his hands behind his back, and the police walk up to him like they're picking up a child, and that's the problem, is the punishments are not strong enough. There was a guy, it's been quite some time ago, in Thailand that decided to, he vandalized some people's cars, and he was American.
Yeah.
And in Thailand, they don't play that, man. They said
no, I hear
he's
you.
going to be caned.
You're right, Jake. No, listen,
and all the
I understand.
Americans were like, oh,
Yep.
they shouldn't cane him. I was like, hell yeah, cane him.
Yeah.
Cane him good,
Jake, listen, and by the way, we just received some information from Tate there in the studio that after there was some sort of chase that led to this, and this guy rammed his car into a police car. Let me be very clear on this. Let me be very clear for people out there. And by the way, the number to call, 257-5396. If you are dumb enough to ram your car into a police officer's car on purpose, or by the way, any car for that matter, you deserve what is coming to you. I have no sympathy for him. If that's what police are saying, I am sure that is exactly what happened. Jake, I really do appreciate the phone call. Thank you so much for calling in.
Good call, Jake.
And again, that number, 257-5396. I mean, yeah, that certainly clears that up right now. If you are going to ram your car into a police vehicle, police usually don't like it when you do stuff like that. They usually don't. They usually take offense when you do something like that. Yeah,
that's not a good day for Metro when they get their cars just drilled.
No, but listen, I've said this all week. And, I'll say it again. My family was involved in a very serious car accident when I was 12 years old. I lost my grandmother. Both my parents were in comas at the hands of some driver who took us off the road that was driving recklessly. So while I certainly didn't have to go through, and I'm not trying to compare or contrast what took place last week.
Well, you can legitimately make the comparison, though, Brian.
I don't really want to.
You, from an emotional standpoint, have been in that position, so you can. There's a lot of people out there, though, on social media, though, that take liberties that have been nowhere near that type of situation.
All I can say is this. This father
unload their feelings towards this driver.
This father who lost his wife, his mother-in-law, his daughter. You've got 2 kids that are in the hospital right now.
It's a horrific situation. It is absolutely tragic.
I cannot imagine what the family and friends are going through right now. I can't imagine.
No.
I can't imagine. And my heart goes out to them. I am certainly not going to criticize any members of that family for going after this guy. I understand. And by the way, I'm not.
Well, you don't want to litigate, right? What people like that are saying, because look, you don't want to get in their heads. They have their own grief to deal with. Yeah. That is just awful. So you don't want to tell them what to say or how to say it.
And by the way, it is important to note we have reached out to that family, some of those family members. Obviously, they're grieving. They want their privacy, and we totally respect that and understand that. We also reached out to the family attorney. And listen, that's a part of this as well. I mean, sadly, money's never going to bring anybody back. It's not going to ease any pain. But for that, when you have a 17-year-old that could be paralyzed and you have a 10-year-old that's in a coma, I would imagine some of their medical bills aren't going to be automatically paid for. There is a GoFundMe page up there. We put that up on our Twitter page. Please help this family. Please go on there and donate what you can. I think they're up to around $40,000 right now, if I'm not mistaken. Please do whatever you can to help this family because, boy, this is just a tragedy. It hits home to everybody in this town. And by the way, quickly, before we go to break, I saw 2 more accidents on that intersection in the last 48 hours. 2 more accidents. Why? For God's sakes, people, slow down on the roadways. Be a defensive driver because you damn well better be, especially in this town. And be careful on the roadways. You're not the only person out there. If you want to drive like an idiot and hurt yourself, that's your business. But that's the problem. You're playing Russian roulette with society when you do that, okay? All right, we're going to take a quick break. You're going to be back right after this. You're not going to believe what 2 police officers did in regards to the homeless. We'll talk about that coming up next. You are listening to The Vegas Take, and we'll be back. All right, welcome back. It is The Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro. I had to listen to all that 80s music New Year's Eve. I still enjoy it. It makes me feel a little old, but I like that 80s rock.
I saw a good special on TV yesterday. It was Foreigner. It was an old Foreigner. All the former members back from the 80s.
Can you do a little Foreigner for us right now?
I want to know what love is.
Okay, that's just bad, awful.
Dude,
yeah, that was terrible.
I'm not in tune.
That'll never happen again. Yes. Anyway, welcome back to the show. It is Sharp and Shapiro. That is the voice of Chris Wynn joining us as a guest. We were talking about, of course, the horrific car crash that took place last week, and now the release of the individual who caused that crash. There is a story that was out. And this is so troubling. It's just unbelievable. And I'm not trying to make Las Vegas to be this horrible place, but yes, there are some bad people out there, as there would be in any community. Well, there is a video that was released of a man kidnapping his girlfriend as this was New Year's Eve, screaming and yelling for help. She knocks on a door of a neighbor or somebody in the neighborhood trying to ask for help, because if somebody's chasing you around and you're in fear of your life, what are you going to do? If you don't have time to call 911, I would have probably done the same thing, right? I would knock on a door, help, help, help. So there's a video that we're going to be posting on our Twitter page where you can see she knocks on a door. The only reason why we have the video of this is because she knocked on the door and this household had a camera in front of their house, right? So in this video, she goes to this door. She's saying, Darnell, no, Darnell. Darnell is her boyfriend. Darnell is following her. He is the one that has kidnapped her. And in this video, boy, it is tough to watch. But he physically assaults her, kicking her in her stomach, in her midsection. When she is on the ground, she's crying, she's screaming in pain. It is horrific to watch. So police, who did a great job, thank God, by the way, for that house having a camera. Otherwise, this stuff probably sadly happens every day, and these bastards who do this never go to jail because there's no physical evidence, right? Well, guess what? They caught this bastard. That's right. They got him. His name is 23-year-old Darnell Rogers. And you know what helped besides the video? The fact that she said his name. Not only did this camera have video, but there was audio. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, this was New Year's Eve, too, right? I mean, it's just unbelievable. Not that any other day would make it any worse or better, but it just goes to show you how video surveillance, this is why officers need to have video cameras. Now, listen, I understand this costs money, right? But if you have enough money to own a home, a decent home, there's no excuse why you shouldn't have enough money to have cameras. And for these apartment complexes in town and all these places that make millions and millions of dollars, why don't you put some security cameras around at every apartment complex so we can catch these bastards that might enter your home, home invasions, any type of assault. I mean, I don't care if it's from Bridget, not to make light of this, but if it's Bridget the midget assaulting her boyfriend, or if it's a situation like this, I don't care who it is. We need video surveillance, and for this type of situation, great job by Metro Police. I give them kudos. I don't always do that, but in this situation, great job in catching this bastard. So let me ask you guys a question. So they call this kidnapping. Now, there might be some people that say, well, wait a second, this was his girlfriend. It's not kidnapping, but the rules state, yes, it is. If you're holding somebody against their will, and in this case, he's assaulting her, it is kidnapping. If you put your hands on a woman and it is not self-defense, to me, give him 20 years in prison. I don't have a problem with that. What do you got? If there's overwhelming evidence, and there is overwhelming evidence because there's video surveillance here that shows this man assaulting his wife, his girlfriend. And by the way, we have posted that video on Twitter if you want to check it out. What do you guys make of this?
Yeah, I think that he'll probably get 10 years. They're going to throw the book at him, but only a few things are going to stick. I'm comfortable with giving this guy 10 years for what he did. And you're right. It's very, very smart of that woman to say, Darnell, because that's probably I would say that's probably 60% of what helped take this guy down.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, Brian and JD, you bring up the surveillance, right? It's ironic, isn't it, that it seems Las Vegas is like the most surveilled city in America, possibly the world, given, all the video footage. So, yes, it is absolutely, we are extremely fortunate that there was some video available as well as audio in this episode. But I would agree with you. Look, as far as like in the number of charges that you can throw at him, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a legal expert, but absolutely, kidnapping could be a part of it. We saw that with the O.J. Simpson case, sure, where this was an issue with memorabilia and all that kind of stuff. But the fact that they were in a room where they were confined into a room and they didn't have an opportunity to leave, that was an aspect of kidnapping. So that could possibly come into play here as well.
It could be kidnapping, false imprisonment, battery, mm-hmm, assault. Maybe she's pregnant. That could come into play too. I mean, you never really know what the details are, but he's definitely going to spend, I would say, about a decade of his life behind bars.
So, Brian, you mentioned, of course, police officers and having cameras on them. Well, we had a story that you talked about in the top of the last segment with two police officers in Mobile, Alabama. These officers are Preston McGraw and Alexandre Olivier, very young officers, recent graduates of the police academy in February of 2018 and January of 2019. Well, These two officers have caused outrage online over an image of them appearing to ridicule homeless people that went viral over the holiday. The post shows the two officers holding up a so-called quilt of cardboard signs apparently confiscated from homeless people in the city. That accompanying text says, "Want to wish everybody in the 4th Precinct a Merry Christmas, especially our captain. Hope you enjoy our homeless quilt. Sincerely, Panhandler Patrol." Now, this has been looked at as an absolutely extremely insensitive, considering it is the holiday season. And Mobile's chief of police, Brian and JD, Lawrence Bastet, who has long been an advocate for homeless people in Mobile, offered apologies on behalf of his department for the post. And just a short quote from him. He says, "As a police department entrusted with serving and protecting our community, we offer our sincerest apology for the insensitive gesture of a Facebook post by two of our officers where they're holding up a homeless quilt made of panhandling
So let me,
signs."
thank you for giving us that backstory on that. And listen, we know that there are a lot of panhandlers in Las Vegas. Throughout the country, the homeless issue is a big problem, not just in Las Vegas, but everywhere. Okay, the fact that these police officers, first of all, confiscated these signs, and these are the type of signs that say homeless, anything helps, 25 cents, whatever the case may
vet,
be. Right, exactly.
Any help you can give me.
The fact that they confiscated these and then they actually took the time out of their day to make a homeless, what would you even call it? A homeless sign quilt out of it.
Yeah.
And they were dumb enough and they showed the lack of judgment and intelligence to actually take a picture. Now, okay, it would be bad enough if they did it in private and we wouldn't be talking about it, but publicly taking a picture and posting it to social media. So here's my opinion on this. And by the way,
it happened in Alabama, too.
Well, yeah, what a shocker there, where they try to pass laws where, if a woman gets raped, God forbid, she has to have a baby. So what a shocker, those dumbbells in Alabama. But I'm not saying everyone in Alabama is dumb, but I'm saying there are a lot of them that are. I'm sorry.
The bright bulbs on the tree.
I'm sorry.
Well, what you're saying is that if you live in Alabama, there's a chance.
There's a higher chance of you being stupid.
Probably
yes.
a much higher chance that your IQ is less
like
than
these
80.
two officers who were stupid.
Yes, like these two officers. So here's how I feel about this. When it came down to Ferguson, and the reason why I'm bringing up Ferguson, it's important because I defended that officer. And I don't always defend officers. If they're wrong, throw the book at them, man. But that hands up, don't shoot narrative, that officer will never be the same for the rest of his life. He did absolutely nothing wrong at his job. He should be commended. And Michael Brown was painted out to be some sort of hero where he was nothing more than a thug. And the reason why I bring that up is because there are situations where officers do not deserve to be treated the way they are treated. They have a tough job. But this is a specific situation where I personally believe, and some people might think this is too harsh, tough. I don't think those two officers getting suspended is enough. In my personal opinion, they should never be allowed to be a police officer ever again. Because it not only, what do you need when you're a police officer? Judgment. You need to be great when it comes to making judgment calls. You have life or death situations with many of these police officers. They have split-second decisions. You're telling me you want somebody out there on the streets making life or death decisions at the taxpayers' money, okay? Two guys that decide to mock homeless people. They weren't even sitting, and by the way, it'd be bad enough they were sitting at a bar drunk or something. They weren't talking amongst friends. They weren't just having a private conversation. They weren't even in a private...
they were in uniform.
They were in uniform.
Yes.
They took time out of their day to take these homeless signs and make a joke of people that don't have enough financial money. They don't have enough money to even live in a house. They're homeless. They're in a horrible place. And you decided to take time out of your day to do this. What the hell else have these police officers done? It didn't start here. If these guys have that bad a judgment that they would do something stupid like this, let me ask you guys this. What do you think should happen to these police officers? Police officers need to be held to a higher standard, just like our politicians, just like our president. They have a lot of power. And while I think the majority of police officers are heroes and they do a fantastic job protecting and serving, you've got bad apples like these idiots. Do I think they deserve to go to jail? No. But I think they should never be allowed to be...
I don't know about that.
No,
I would push back
sorry,
on that a little bit.
I don't think they
you
should.
don't think should be police officers ever again?
Nope.
One guy just graduated in, December of 2018. The other guy, January of 2019.
I don't care.
So
obviously, they're very young guys.
These are millennial police officers, Brian.
Look, I'm not condoning what they did, Brian and JD, in any stretch, but at the same time, not being a police officer, you don't think they should be police officers ever again?
These are the poster
Find another
childs.
occupation. Yeah. No. You want to be a security guard somewhere?
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
You want to be an armed security guard somewhere? Fine, go ahead.
Paul Blart, Mall Cop?
I do not believe that. Listen, and we'll take your calls on this. What do you think about this? I mean, we have these two police officers who decided to make a quilt, so to speak, out of homeless people's signs, that say need help, vet, that sort of stuff. They take a picture on social media mocking the homeless in a time where we have more homeless people in this country than ever before. It is a horrible, horrible epidemic. And what do you think should happen to these police officers? It is my personal opinion that I think these police officers should never be cops again. Now, we have a lot of people that are former cops and current police officers. When we talk about these issues, they call in. So I'm going to open up the phone lines to you and anyone else. What do you think should happen to these two police officers, or do you think there should be any discipline? 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Again, that number is 257-5396. Look, here's why I think they should never be an officer again. Being a police officer is an enormous amount of power. You have an enormous amount of power over people, okay? With that is, it's a privilege. It's a difficult job. I understand that. But with being a police officer comes a tremendous amount of responsibility. I'm not saying you have to be perfect. Listen, if they cracked a joke or something, it would have been inappropriate, but I wouldn't be saying the same tune. The fact that they take this picture on social media, they make a quilt out of this stuff, I'm not comfortable with these guys being police officers. That's why I say that. And again, the number to call, 702. The number to call, 702-257-5396.
Let's think about the logistics involved in creating a quilt out of this. Like, what exactly do you have? How big was this quilt, Brian?
It's pretty good size. It's a little bit bigger than both the officers. The officers, I don't know how tall they are. I would just suspect between 5'9" and 5'11", 6 feet, whatever. And the quilt goes a little bit higher than them. So there was a
and how
so
wide
JD,
is it?
The point being, there was considerable amount of effort put into this.
That looks like almost a 36 square foot quilt to me, Chris.
The point is, it took them some time to put this together.
So there was a thought process behind it. There was a consideration.
And also, what's
it wasn't a spur of the moment thing.
Are they just that bored? I mean, what's the end game? What are they trying to accomplish with that?
I just think they're idiots.
You guys know what they're trying to accomplish. They're trying to be funny on social media. That's what they're trying to be.
I get that,
that's
but
what it was.
They didn't think that would at some point come back to haunt them. They thought they would actually propel their careers as police officers. I just don't understand the logic.
Well, they didn't think. Obviously.
Clearly
well,
they didn't think
we're getting
under those
back to these two officers are just not very bright, right? They're just not smart guys. It's as simple as that, right? They're just not.
Well, guess what?
They're not the brightest bulbs on the tree.
Well, guess what,
I don't
Chris?
know how many ways you can describe it. That's the way it is.
I think it's very cruel what they did. Unnecessary. Again, when I do something, I do it for a reason. I don't understand the reasoning here unless they're trying to impress some other police officers in different precincts.
Well, you guys just
San
made
Francisco or New York or Chicago or wherever homeless is a bigger issue than Mobile, Alabama. But I don't think they should be. I don't think they should lose their jobs. They should have to be suspended.
No, I think the apropos punishment is suspension. Yes, I think they should be suspended. Do I think they should lose their job? Probably not.
Or be funny about it and just put them only on homeless patrol for a year or two.
Yeah.
That I would be okay with.
Where they only have to deal with the homeless.
Actually, that I would actually be okay with. Open up the phone line, 702-257-5396 on this issue. These two police officers that made a homeless quilt, put it on social media, mocking the homeless. And by the way, if you want to check this out, we put it up on our Twitter page. We just posted it, which is at the Vegas Take. Do we have Scott on the line? 257-5396, by the way, is the number to call if you want to be a part of this conversation. A lot of serious issues, we've been talking about. As I mentioned, we talked about the accident that took place last week. We talked about a man who assaulted his girlfriend on video as the woman was running from him, trying to get into a neighbor's home. We talked about that. And now we're talking about these two police officers in Alabama. What a shocker, right? Alabama, what a shocker. What do you think should happen to these two police officers? I disagree with JD and Chris, maybe a little more harsh. They believe that these two police officers should be suspended. I believe they should be fired, and I don't think they should ever be allowed to be a police officer again. Let's go to Scott. Scott, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. What do you think of all this?
Hey, what's up, Scott?
Hey, I appreciate it. I agree with you. They should be, let go. However, prior to letting them go, they won't even know it's part of their punishment. They ought to invite, or the judge ought to mandate that these people that were homeless and they took the signs, that these two officers open up their homes to provide a stable living for at least 3 to 6 months.
Wait, time out. Scott. So now, Scott.
After the punishment, then let them go.
Yeah, Chris,
all right, wait, Scott. So let me get this straight. Not only are you going to get let go from your jobs as police officers, but now that you are an unemployed police officer, you need to take in homeless people into your house.
No, Chris,
is that what I'm hearing right now?
The punishment is very simple.
Maybe those police officers will be able to utilize the signs that were already made for them.
There you go.
There it is.
In addition to being letting go, they have to have their houses turned into homeless shelters.
Exactly. Right? I mean, it's just add insult to injury, right? Like
Scott, I like it. Scott, I like where you're going with this, my friend. I appreciate the phone call. Thank you.
Not only are we stripping you of your livelihood, but we're forcing you to, yes, as JD put it,
how about
make your homes homeless shelters.
Why don't you have these two?
And we are not responsible for any diseases that you and your family may incur along the way.
Yeah.
Sounds like a perfect solution.
Why don't we have these two Reno 911 morons decide to live on Skid Row for a day? Let's see if they can survive. Yeah. Why don't we let them do it? Let's see how they are, these jackasses. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Debbie. Debbie, you're next on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, Debbie.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I think that these guys should make the punishment fit the crime, not necessarily lose their jobs, but they need to go to some kind of sensitivity to homeless class, work in a soup kitchen, or work with the homeless in a way that they understand and get it, especially when homeless is so prevalent these days.
Well, obviously they have no sympathy for the homeless, and I agree. Maybe everything they do should be, for the purpose of acquiring sympathy, which comes from understanding and experience.
And listen,
the
Debbie, I understand, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think here's where I disagree with all three of you a little bit. I think being a police officer, and I've said this before, it's a lot of power, it's a lot of responsibility. I understand they're not making six figures a year. I get that. I also understand it's a very difficult job, and the majority of police officers are heroes. I'm not anti-cop, but with that being said, when somebody shows the type of judgment that these police officers showed, whether you want to call it a lack of intelligence or understanding, I don't feel comfortable with them having a weapon. I don't feel comfortable with them being able to arrest me. I don't feel comfortable with a police officer, that type of cop, coming to my residence when I have a home invasion and shooting the wrong person. Listen, I know I'm leading this to other things, but again, it goes back to what I'm saying. Being a police officer, you have to have great judgment. I think that's a fair statement to make. Sometimes you have to make split-second judgments. I'm talking about life or death, split-second judgments. And for somebody, or these two individuals, for example, to be dumb enough to not only make fun of the homeless, it wasn't at a bar, it wasn't at their house, it was in uniform. They put a picture of it on social media. These guys have to have an IQ lower than Donald Trump.
I couldn't agree more. Here's a thought. What if you make them become homeless and live among them for 30 days with suspension without pay?
Yeah.
And let them
I'm with
really
that.
think about what they did and how insensitive that they were.
I think that would be.
Yeah, I like it.
In theory, that's funny and good, but I believe that's the definition of cruel and unusual punishment.
Absolutely, and they should be held to a higher standard.
Agree.
They do have an enormous responsibility that comes with the power they carry.
Yeah.
They need to think twice. I know they're brand new officers, but even so, they need to really, really think about the other side of the coin.
You're right.
I don't think that what they did was maybe lose their job, but I do think that they definitely need to be punished in a way that fits the crime, like let them live among the homeless.
I agree, Debbie. Totally. Very good call. We appreciate your phone call. By the way, the number is 257-5396. Hey, here's something. How about Carolyn Goodman go to their house, fine them, what's the fine if you're homeless in Las Vegas?
$1,000.
Yeah, why don't we fine them $1,000 each and put them in the Clark County Jail for 6 months? Because that's the way apparently they treat homeless people in Las Vegas, right? Why don't we do that to these two police officers? Let's see how they feel about that. Maybe they won't make a quilt again. Yeah, I'll send them a quilt. I'll send them a quilt that says, you guys are morons, you should be fired. I'll send them a quilt their way. It's ridiculous. Listen, as much as I can't stand it when people like Al Sharpton and the Jesse Jacksons of the world want to attack every police officer who's white for doing something to an African American. While many of those incidents probably are justified, some of them are not. I agree. I understand. Where are they in these types of situations too? Then when it doesn't involve race, I think everybody should be involved here. This has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with two officers that showed just horrible judgment. And I'm not going to take a step back, get off of my opinion. I don't think they should be police officers again. Listen, there are a lot of great cops out there. We have a lot of police officers that call into this show all the time, former retired police officers. When we talk about these types of issues, the heroes on October 1, those police officers that saved lives. There are great stories that are not covered probably on a daily basis. Firefighters, police officers that put their own lives at risk to save yours. And there's no question. And then there are good Samaritans out there that we talk about all the time. Those people that went into those burning cars in that crash last week and saved those 2 kids' lives. Just as important as commending heroes and those type of people, I think we need to condemn people that do heinous things, bad things that are in law enforcement as well. And this is one of those situations.
But Brian, quickly, I think you have to, differentiate between infractions. Okay, there's certain things that are, that if police officers do wrong, you should be punished much harsher for than other things. Okay, you're not going to punish these 2 officers in the same way that you're going to punish an officer that's a dirty cop, right? That's taking money or that is committing felonies along those lines, or are doing things that are that people that ends up people being killed or something. I mean, there's certain levels we have to, and so I mean you're taking a position that's extreme where you're saying, you know what, boom, you're out of here because of this terrible judgment. Look, it's not the end of the world. People, I think you're taking a step further when you're talking about, ending these guys' careers before they even start.
Okay, hold on.
These guys just got out of the academy like 6 months ago.
You're taking an emotional position.
Yeah.
No,
and Chris,
yeah. I'm not.
Chris, yeah, you are. And Chris is totally right.
Not taking an emotional position.
You can't really set a precedent like this.
I'm not taking an emotional position. I disagree.
You are. You're absolutely are.
Well, let me explain
you're
why.
Saying they should never be police officers again.
Let me explain why.
How's that not?
Let me defend and explain why I'm saying they shouldn't be officers anymore.
Yeah.
Okay? This is a specific type of job. For example, if I go on the airwaves and I throw out the F word, on a regular basis, okay, I'm not committing a crime, but I'm probably not fit to be on the radio because you really have to be careful what you say. By the way,
well, actually, you are fit to be on radio if you're on satellite radio.
Okay,
you can
but
do that.
We're not talking about satellite radio. Okay, that's not. I'm just talking about in general terms. If it was this station, for example, let me give you another example. If you are dumb enough, and I hate to, and I'm not going to bring up her name, and I'm not going to say she's dumb. I'm not going to do that because she is a nice lady, and I've been friends with her for a long time. But we don't talk anymore because we got into a political debate, and she doesn't like getting into. Apparently, she does a political talk show, but she doesn't like getting into political debates on social media. But I'm not going to say her name, even though she used to work for the station. But she went on the air. And
I know what you're talking about.
And this is what she said, and I'm kind of paraphrasing. She was making the claim that if you are 2 men or 2 women raising a child, that you can't be a good enough parent than if you are a man and a woman. It was an outrageous thing to say. It was a horrible thing to say, and you should be responsible for your actions. Well, guess what? She lost her job because of that. She's on another station now. Now, if she didn't work in radio again, I probably wouldn't have had a problem with that. And the reason why, if she wants to do a podcast and she wants to work for herself, that's different. She was working for a company, and she made that ridiculous remark. You have to be responsible for the things you say. And, if you're going to make a ridiculous claim like that, you have to expect that, Tucker Carlson, perfect example, okay? The only reason why Tucker Carlson is on Fox News is because he makes Fox News a ton of money. Okay, but they're a bunch of freaking cowards over there, and here's why. See, I almost said the F word. I almost lost my radio career. Tucker Carlson said that this was 2 weeks after the shooting in Walmart, where a white supremacist walked into Walmart and killed 22 people. And this moron goes on Fox News. He's got nothing better to say. He says the idea of white supremacy is a hoax. Now, either he believes that, or he's just saying that to get clicks. Just like the idiot at InfoWars who said that school shooting in Connecticut never happened and got sued for it. That's a guy who should not be on the airwaves anywhere.
He just lost $100,000, by the $100,000, Did he? So let me ask you this,
That's
Brian.
it, just $100,000?
Yeah, just $100,000.
We only got about 1 minute.
What if Don Imus, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, Tucker Carlson, any of these hosts, what if they had said what this particular woman that you're talking about had said? Do you think they would have lost their jobs?
No, because they make a lot of money than what that woman makes for a company. That's just the bottom line. By the way, I don't think Sean Hannity is a racist.
Is that sexist?
No, absolutely not. This had nothing to do with the fact that she's a woman. It had everything to do with the fact that she says things on the radio, and she doesn't think she should be held responsible for some of those things that she says.
You don't think that women have a shorter leash when it comes to things they can say on air?
No. Laura Ingraham is the one that told LeBron James to shut up and dribble. Laura Ingraham is the one that went after Nipsey Hussle, who did so many great things for his community, and she decided to go after his lyrics a week or two after he died. She is a racist witch. The racist witch, Laura Ingraham. She does those things every single day. Okay. And by the way, I know personal stories about her going into Las Vegas and the way she treats her employees. Anyway, we got to take a break. We got to take a break. We'll be right back right after this, and we're going to talk a little UNLV hoops. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Vegas Tape.